Well, hello everybody. Hopefully this microphone is working. I just realized before it started that I didn't even turn the darn thing on, so I switched it at the last second. So please confirm you can hear me. Here we are. Good evening, Roy. How are you? Glad to see you. And tonight is our first broadcast on both YouTube and Facebook, so I want to welcome any of our friends that show up from Facebook tonight to all of the fun. It looks like it's placing a little logo down in the icons for whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. I don't know if I don't know if the chat is shared or whatnot. I think it is, so it should be the same chat. I hope so, Roy. I spent a lot of time this week working on audio to make sure it was loud enough. Last week, it looked like after I went back and watched it, it did have some lack of audio. I also made some improvements to those watching it on vertical. I got a bug in my throat tonight. I also made some changes there. So now when I go into the vertical mode like this, to show you my screen, on the vertical, it is one above the other instead of this goofy style that it had before. So it took me a little bit of work to get it there. But I do have the screens going now. I've got the YouTube and Facebook working, so everything seems to be working. And boy, have I got a packed night of good content for you. We are doing batteries this last couple of weeks. I've got some big plans for a big battery company that is going to that has sent me some batteries, and I have, for a surprise for all of you, not really a surprise, I do have a sneak peek of the new big battery video coming out at the end of the live stream. So if you stick around and hang out for that, you can see it before it comes out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Of course, if you're a member, it should already be out there. If not, it will be out there shortly after we broadcast tonight. I think it's already out there though. Let me just go make sure. Heck, I don't even remember now. I know I had the intentions of putting it out there, but I may not have gotten to it yet. It is unscheduled. I will get it scheduled. It will be available right after the live stream for all members also. So, oh, there we go. Says it's perfect. Good. I'm glad to hear that it sounds a little bit better this week. It took me a little bit of effort. So, I am going to spend this week and we are going to discuss different battery types that you've seen in the, hey NSB, good evening. Hello to you too. We're going to go through a bunch of different battery types tonight, from DIY batteries to EG4 batteries to Wirren batteries to WattCycle batteries and even the BigBattery batteries. We're going to go through them, talk about the different specs, talk about the different use cases. I've built myself a couple of cheat sheet lists here to kind of remind me of the things that are good about them or not so good about them, and hopefully we'll find and welcome your comments, and hopefully we'll find some of the perfect batteries to fit your circumstances and your needs. And as always, NSB knows to welcome, good evening to you too, and welcome to everyone who is online tonight. Please make sure that if you have comments, post them in the comments. That's what this is about. This is, if I wanted to release a video, I would release a video. I do live streams to talk with you. That's what it's all about. I like the instant feedback. I like the being able to go back and forth. I like the being able to do a little bit of chat. All right. I think we're just going to go straight into it tonight and just get straight to the batteries. And I want to start off with some of the more common ones. And for each battery, what I'll do is I'll put the I'll put a, what are they called? A QR code up on the screen for them. The comments down below in all circumstances contain a link to all of the batteries that we're doing today and all of the batteries that I will be covering. If there's anything that you see in the list, for example, the BigBattery and the Wirren batteries that I have not, if I have not done reviews for, you will be seeing a review here in the next couple of weeks because I've got a lot of great battery content coming. So we're going to do a little bit of comparison of these different types of batteries. And I'll go over a little bit of which ones cost a little bit more, why they cost a little bit more. We'll get into which ones are a little bit more beginner friendly, like the DIY battery obviously is the least beginner friendly, but it may be the most cost effective, maybe. At least it used to be. What kind of communications each battery has, what kind of system that you would want to install it in, and how easy it would be to back up your house or not back up your house. So we're going to start off here with the EG4 battery. I am going to find the comments here. And hello, Pyro, how are you? Welcome, glad to see you. Glad you could make it. I'm going to see if I can turn these on to show them in the chat. There we go. How's that? Actually, that looks pretty good. I wonder if I can make that bigger. Nope, I cannot. Okay, well then it'll just stay right there. I'll put the chat on the screen, and that way maybe there's a better chance that I won't miss it either. As I flip around screens here, sometimes I forget to look back. So we're going to start off with the EG4. These are the LifePower4 batteries, which you see right here on my beautiful, fancy new background. And matter of fact, I think all of the batteries are represented here. We got the LifePower4 battery. These are rack mount batteries. They are 5.12 kilowatt, standard 48 volt batteries. I am covering only 48 volt batteries tonight. These are larger 48 volt system batteries that I'm covering. I'll probably do another episode at some time in the future if there's enough demand for 12 volt or some other voltage if we're interested in that. But these, the LifePod batteries here, they are available from multiple of distributors here in the United States. Obviously, you can get these from Signature Solar, which is the link that I have up there. It's also the link that's in the comments. There's a discount code if you're doing them. Put in my code, I think it's MMS50 this month. And so that'll get you an extra $50 off. But these batteries are particularly good for, they weigh about 100 pounds a piece. And so they're not overly heavy, but they're also not overly mobile. I bought a rack earlier this week for these, trying to figure out which way to lean here, for these batteries here, these Wirren batteries. And I bought one of their racks, and I was trying to put the EG4 batteries into the rack. I was going to put 3 of the Wirren batteries at the bottom and 3 of the EG4 batteries at the top. Is the background real? No, the background is not real. The products that you see in them are real. They are part of the solar shed. It is not real. It's just a curtain. I used to use a green screen, and the problem, and I can actually show you what it looks like in green screen. I did a green screen for quite a while, and then I would pick different backgrounds. So for example, I could go over to this and say, okay, I have, I want to use this background, or I want to use this background. And then a lot of the times I would be out at the actual solar system, this is a picture of it here. I used this one for quite a few of the last few weeks. Now I'm not actually have the green screen up. It has my other screen, so it's not really 100% accurate. The green screen made it look like the background was truly there. But so I switched recently. I even contemplated just using this one, but the reason being is I wanted to be able to, I was having problems when I was demoing to you guys, and I was able to show you things like this. The green screen would fade in or fade out. And my wife, if you guys haven't noticed all my different shirts that I wear, she bought me a lot of shirts. And the problem I was running into is that most of the shirts were beachy type and they had green stuff on them. And when I used the green screen shirts, they would vanish, and I couldn't get it to show up. So I tried to come up with a method to allow me to, actually show you things like this and not have them disappear and the background show through. So this was kind of the next best thing. It was only a couple of bucks and it made it really good. But anyway, but thank you for asking. Pyro, oh, thank you. Glad you subscribed. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. What would you recommend for an RV setup? We don't currently want to set up solar just on top off the batteries at an RV park with a generator. On the board, the RV, we have 30 amp rig. It really comes down to how much of that 30 amps are you using? How much power are you using? Are you looking to run your RV completely and totally, meaning air conditioner? Or are you looking for the refrigerator and stuff? Now, I have an RV rig. I ran this 6000 XP right here, one of these in there, and I used 3 of these LifePower4 batteries right here. And that gave me 15 kilowatt hours of power. And I was in pretty good shape most of the time. Now, I will tell you, I pulled the air conditioners that are in a standard RV, I pulled them out and I put in mini splits. And then I also built a DIY battery and mounted that in the RV bay. So at that point I had 31, actually it was closer to 32 kilowatt hours of power. I literally could go and sit on beaches and whatever for weeks on end. We would go to casinos and just park in the parking lot. The only limiting factor we had was the water and the tanks. Now, that said, all be known, you mentioned that you didn't want to do anything but top the batteries off. I had 3,700 watts of power on the roof also. Now, 30 kilowatts will get you a long way in an RV if all you're running are the essentials. As soon as you start doing things like air conditioners, the whole world changes. Have I played a game on a computer, on a PC? Have I played a game on a PC? Heck yeah, I've been addicted to mini games on PCs. I try not to play them anymore. Oh, you're probably talking to him though. Either way, so it really, if you give me a little bit more information of Colorado, about what you really want to do with your RV. Are you looking at air conditioners? Are you looking at just the refrigerator? How many AC devices? Are you talking about hot water heater and gas? Are you going to be using propane? All of those big devices really make a big difference. If you're talking about the bare minimums, you can get away with very little. Charge them up on your when you're at an RV park. I have a coffee trailer that my wife takes out, and it has 3,000 EHVs in it because I needed 6,000 watts. And I do exactly that. It does have a couple of panels on the top, but it's like 400, 600 watts or so. Not enough to actually do anything, and most of our events are at night. So I'll transfer a couple of the EG4 batteries into it when we go do the event, depending on how long we want to be there. We did one the other night at Roadhouse, and we were out for about 6 hours, and I went through about 12 kilowatt hours. Now, keep in mind, we were running a full-fledged coffee and dessert nachos coffee cart. So that's kind of what we did there. Have you played a game on a PC? Tons of games. Team Fortress 2. No, I've never played Team Fortress 2. A little bit of older games like the StarCraft, and I like the strategy games. All right. So the EG4, so I was still on the EG4 battery. So these EG4 batteries, they're about 100 pounds a piece. They're 48 volts. They have 100 amp withdrawal. 100 standard charge is, I think, 20 amps or 20 or 30 amps, and then max is 50. So you can't just do it. Now, max is 100. They don't recommend you go over 50. Really, 50 amps on a 100 amp hour battery is a 2-hour charge. You probably shouldn't be doing that on most of them anyway, even if they do allow it. So probably not too big of a deal. They are certified, and for that you pay a little bit more. I see batteries as having really 3 classes of batteries. You have the upper end batteries that have all the certifications, all the on-grid type connections, the CAN ports, the state of charge, the automatic shut off, the so on and so forth. Because these batteries do have that certification with the EG4 equipment, the 6000 XP, the 12,000 XP, and probably the Grid Boss and the Flex Boss I'm sure it is with both of those. You do pay a little bit more for them. They run, I don't know, about $1,400. And let me just see if I can pull up one of those links on that one. Let me grab the link real quick for that. Live. EG4. Here it is. All right, so I got this battery up. Let me just share that screen with you guys. Well, my screen should be nice tonight, and even my vertical is really good. Good. All right, so this is the EG4 LifePower4. This is the version 2 model. You'll notice up here it does say version 2. The models I have are version 1. They only had one port for connecting to them. Fortunately, the battery market has realized if we want to parallel these together and connect them together, and you'll see in the pictures back here in the back of my screen, a lot of the times what we'll do, if I can figure out how to switch that screen back, a lot of times, yeah, so you can see here, these are actually connected to the bus bar off to the side of the EG4 rack. But and the Wirren batteries don't show it at all. These you usually connect straight down, and then you connect the top positive and the bottom negative over to it, because this rack doesn't come with a, what do you want to call it, a bus bar. So this one has a 600 amp bus bar on it, where this one has only a no bus bar at all. And wow, thank you. B Colorado, do not want to bother you during the stream with questions? Do you consider via phone, Skype? If so, what is the contact information? Yes, you can go directly to. Let me get you the link here real quick. That is a scan link. I don't know if you're on the phone, but I do one-on-one sessions, and we'll be glad to talk with you. Just let me know what it is. You can go to my website at mattmansolar.com, or you can just follow that link there. It'll take you there. Any of my links that off my website, right up at the top, there's a place for a one-on-one consultations. You can pull that up, and you can we get together. We can go over diagrams, plans, anything you want. But I do want to thank you for the thing, and you feel free to ask some questions while you're here, and I really appreciate the super thanks, I guess is what that was. I don't know if that was a super thanks or what it was. Either way, it was very generous of you, and I really appreciate it. I missed one last week. I don't know whose it was, but I wanted to thank them also. Whoops, took that right off the screen, didn't I? Clicked on the wrong button. So that is the EG4 battery for people who really are looking to do grid-based systems. You almost have to go with something that has the certifications, the UL certifications, 1940, I believe it is, which basically means it's configured to work with the inverter together, to have the rapid shutdown, and to have all the safety features, the fire suppression, and all of that. That does not mean that if you're doing off-grid or mobile or something like that, that you have to have those type of batteries. And this is where the market kind of gets into the second or the third tier of batteries. The second tier of batteries is those that I believe have a lot of the safety features, like the BigBattery's new NEXUS battery and the Wirren. A lot of these batteries don't have that UL certification, but they do have a lot of the suppressions. I don't think the Wirren battery has a certification. It may. Let me just see. See if I can pull this up for you. Again, B Colorado, thank you very much. That was very, very kind of you. Looking at Pyro, where do I put the water in an RV? I'm not sure. What do you mean? Where do you put the water? RVs have tanks to hold their water. You put the water in the fill line. You should have a valve that runs to the city or the fill tank. Yeah, so they'll be both an intake. Usually an RV has a tank that holds water. It has a connector where you can connect just the water from the city up or from your RV park. And so that way you both have a pump that can run it out of a tank that's in the RV, or you can connect it directly to the RV, the line itself, and then that would just feed constantly into the RV. And then there's drain plugs for your sewer for both your dark tank, your gray tank, and your black tank. Black tank being your bathroom wastewater, and gray tank being your showers and your sinks and that type of thing. Hopefully that answers your question, Pyro. I didn't know exactly what you were asking about there for a second, but I think we figured it out. All right. So that being, and so the Wirren, oh, well, that's what I was doing. I was checking the Wirren one. Let me go back to this page here. This is the link out of the description for the Wirren battery, and I just want to see if it has the UL certification. It does have UL 9540, so that one is also certified. So now this is a very reasonably priced battery. So this one being about $1,400, and I think that's what the going rate is today. Let's just see here, $1,470, and then the Wirren being this one here, and it is going at $999, but they do have a special on right now that lasts until tomorrow morning, where they're $950. And then, of course, there is a $50 coupon code for the Signature Solar if you use my code for that one also. But that one or this one both have the 9540, so you can use them in off-grid systems. And then there are several other brands that get into what I call, the secondary ones where they don't have the certifications, or they don't have, and they may have the fire suppression and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily have any of the certifications. And then they get even cheaper, the ones that don't have the fire suppression in them, and they don't have any of the certifications. Now, let me make sure I clarify one thing. When I say fire suppression, there is a little extinguisher that they put in these, and the idea here is not necessarily to put the battery out if the battery has problems or run away. This is one of the things I was talking with on the live stream back a few weeks ago with another YouTuber, and we were talking about this, and I mentioned to him I didn't think it could suppress a battery that got into that kind of state. And Matt was absolutely right. The suppressors are there for all the other pieces and parts that are in it, It's there to suppress the wires that catch on fire, or the connectors, or those type of things, and to prevent the battery just from going up in flames and the cells catching on because there was another fire. It's inside the case to prevent that. So that's really good there. So that is really the LifePower4 battery, which let me just make sure I bring that back up on the screen here. So this is the LifePower4 battery. That was the 48 volt EG4 battery and this rack that it's in here is the EG4 rack that comes with 600 amp bus bars, and you can put 6 of these batteries in this rack and hold them and connect them to this, and then that rack can then connect to your bus bar in your system. On the other battery that's here in this picture, this is the Wirren rack battery, whereas these are $1,470 a piece. These are about $999. I think they're on sale this weekend for 4th of July through this weekend through tomorrow morning for $950. These are about $950 a piece. They also have the UL certification, which is nice. And the rack here does not have a bus bar. Usually these are daisy chained together. Instead of coming with the standard, these come with a standard 4-gauge wire that connects to the bus bar, because the only thing that this wire would be supporting is this battery going to the bus bar. These come with one aught wire that runs from here to here. And it allows you to connect these. Actually, I take that back. They're not 1/aught wire. It's 2-gauge wire. It comes with 2-gauge wire that allows you to connect these this way and then run it to your battery off of here and run it to your battery off of the top. It allows you to run it that way. And fortunately, they upgraded that wire from the 4-gauge wire that's used over here to the 2-gauge, which allows you to daisy chain them together like that and use them. Both good batteries, both 100 amp hour wall mount batteries. They're not super portable. They are in these racks that have wheels, so you can buy the racks for them. You don't have to buy the racks. If you're putting them in an RV like I did, you can brace them down or knock them down, keeping in mind they are 100 pounds a piece, regardless of which one you buy, which ones you get. They're good for home backup, as you can put together tons of them. The new EG4 versions here, I know these can be daisy chained up to, I think it's 64 batteries in a chain. And I don't remember what the addressing is on these. Let's just see if we can find it in the specs here real quick. Let's just see here. You can connect up to 63 of them also. And like I said, they're about 100 pounds, 99 pounds. Dimensions are about 20 by 17.7 by 5 1/4. Now, here's the thing that's different. They are 5.5 inches tall. And one of the things that I ran into, which is why they weren't fitting in this rack, is this rack has these little screws right here that keep the EG4 as a little bit bigger battery, and it doesn't quite fit in there. So if I come over here, these are 5.5. If I go into these batteries, the EG4 batteries, scroll down to the size, hopefully it's on here. Of course not. Wouldn't be too easy if they just put all the same information on there. Additional information. Spec sheet, maybe. We can try, right? I don't think it's all that important, but you get the point. What I'm saying here is that they are a tiny bit taller, and they hit the screws that are in this rack on the Wirren rack. Now, the nice thing, the difference here is the rack on this one is $350, $380. It has the 600 amp bus bar on it. It's really, really nice. This one here is like $150. It's super, super less expensive, but the downside is that it doesn't come with the bus bars. And in my mind, I think the bus bars are probably worth it, allowing you to just daisy chain those off in each one. These are probably the most portable 48 volt variations of batteries. They have the right, the right width, the right height. They're movable. You can get them around. Now, let's get into a little bit bigger. That is the Wirren batteries and the EG4 batteries. They both have CAN. They both have RS-485. They both come with 10-year warranties. They both have excellent support because they're both supported here in the US by Signature Solar. So you're not looking at something like the EcoWorthy or some of the Chinese ones where you may save a few bucks from them, but they're not going to have all of those benefits that you're going to. Those are more like the ones you pick up off on Amazon, and you're just not going to have the support. These are more of a premium style battery that both have the certification for home installations. You can go a little cheaper. I would probably not go much less than this here because you got a good enough battery here. It's about $900, $950, $1,000, as opposed to you might get away with $800 going some other route. But you're not going to have any of the certifications, and regardless of where you are, especially if you're in your RV, you're not going to want something that has no safety features whatsoever. Okay, so now let's look at the next battery in my list. It's going to be the WattCycle. Now, that one you see up here. This is a wall mount battery, and you got to forgive my my art here. It does have this up on the wall pretty high, and in reality, it sits on the ground like the big battery over here. But this battery is a 314 amp hour battery. It is a middle tier. It has some of the features that you would find, and actually it has none of the features that you would find in a certified battery, meaning that it doesn't have the fire suppression kits to shut, to put out wires and shorts and stuff like that. It doesn't have a lot of the UL certifications that should be there to ensure that it has the proper breakers, the proper fuses and stuff like that. It does have some of the nice features. It does have a big switch on the side, a breaker switch, double pole, triple pole breaker switch on the side that allows you to shut it off and on. It does have an off-on switch for the BMS, which is nice. It does have a 600 volt or a 600 amp bus on the side. Now, here's the problem with the 600 amp bus. It isn't quite big enough for 600 amps. I don't think I would trust it with 600 amps. We've seen some heating issues with it running at that rate. As a matter of fact, some of the bus bars inside it, the battery itself is rated for a 300 amp draw, and it's probably safely can be operated at 140, 150. Now, this is going to be where your traditional bottom tier batteries, as I said, you're a Chinese battery, you're going to get Chinese support, which means there's going to be, 24 hours to get an answer on anything if you get one at all. Warranty is going to be the same way, and things like that. A lot of the times when you order them, they're going to take a while to get here. They may be coming, from overseas to a warehouse in, let's say, California, and then when you order them, they're shipped from California, but when they're out, they just vanish for a while a new boat comes floating across in order to restock. So, but at the same time, it is a 16 kilowatt battery. It runs about $2,500. It does have quick connects cables. The downside of the quick connect cables is they rushed into it because they were trying to copy some of the better name brands like the EG4 wall mount battery. Now, the EG4 wall mount battery, and I probably could show you that. I don't even think I had that on the on my list, and I probably should have. Let's see if I can just get you an EG4. So here's the EG4. EG4 indoor. Okay, so here's the EG4 indoor, and EG4 also has external and internal wall mount batteries. So you're not looking at strictly the internal batteries with them. You also have external. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to flip the screen. Here we go. All right, so this is the EG4 version. Now, with the WattCycle that we're talking about being the link that's up at the top, the EG4 battery here is about $900 more. But it is UL certified. You can, you can run it with grid connections. You can use it for all of that. It will connect. It has the safety features, the shutdown, the fire suppression, the UL 90, what is it called? 90, blah, 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 blah. Forgot the darn feature of it, the number. Actually, I can just scroll down and get it. So it has quite a few features that you're not going to see there. The 9540. This is the certification that you're looking for, that your city is going to be looking for, to say that this battery is equipped with the fire suppression, the shutdown, all of the stuff that's needed for it to work with the grid. That's going to be the one is at 9540. So you're going to pay a little bit more for it if you get the EG4 version as opposed to, and let me just grab the WattCycle version here and show that one to you. Here we go. And like I said, down in the description, all of these links exist, and any coupon codes I've got, and most of them have a 5, 6, 8% coupon code of some kind. So you can get a bit more off of these prices here. Now here is the WattCycle 16 kilowatt hours, 48 volts, 314 amp hour floor standing battery. This is a traditional battery, just like the EG4 314 watt. The only difference is the extra $800-900 pays for all of the additional features. You're paying for the US support. You're paying for the battery to be handled shipped from a US company, from a company like Signature Solar to maintain your support, answer your phone calls and texts and do that type of stuff. In addition, you're paying for all of the certifications that allow it to operate on grid and to work with the EG4 inverters. Then that makes it a whole lot easier for you to operate and to get support and to get things set up. When you go to WattCycle, I know that it's nothing that we hid. We've learned to deal with it. The Chinese companies, they come into business, they make a bunch of batteries, they sell a bunch of batteries, and sometimes their support is okay, sometimes it's not as good. So you do save a bit, and if that's something you're willing to risk, then that's something that you have to do. And everyone has their own level of risk and what they're willing to do. Off-grid systems, this battery works fine. If you're not worried about looking at the getting it hooked up on a grid, if you're worried about just some basic battery backup for your home and you're not off-grid, or you're off-grid and you're not required to get permitting or anything like that, or you're looking to run, like I do, a solar shed that you can use as a backup, then in that case, it's a perfect fit. Now, and then of course on the other end, now we have the battery in the middle, which is the big battery, and I'm going to go over it next, but I'm going to stop for just a second and answer a couple of these questions that I've missed here. And I haven't seen a single Facebook comment yet, so if anybody is on Facebook, please say hi so that I know it's working. You don't have to say anything, and but I'd love to see a comment come through from you. Most of them weren't listed and not terribly long ago. No, not long ago, almost none of the batteries were listed. It was very, very hard to find a battery that was UL listed. Now it's kind of the thing in 2026, it's really, the industry is changing. Fortunately, the solar companies are kind of starting to feel the pressure of, you can't just go out and sell a grid-tied system, collect the cash and hit the door. There's a lot more education going on around that, and because of that, people are teaching, are learning that they want a battery. They're learning that just because you have a solar system and you have 31 panels on your roof like I do, when the grid goes out, pow, your power is gone. It doesn't matter how much sun's out there, because there's no battery, there's no backup, there's no way to energize that with the grid off, because that's the requirement of the electric company and the state. So have a camper trailer, what would you recommend? I had a very similar question for camper trailers, and I have done multiple mobile builds for this type of system. A lot of it comes down to, what are you trying to do with your mobile trailer? Are you trying to run air conditioners? Are you trying to run refrigeration? Are you trying to run just your basic water pump, your lights, and just kind of operate that way? So I really need a little bit more information, Matthew. Matthew Farrell, I believe it is. Matthew, or I don't know if you go by Matt or Matthew. I go by Matt, although my name is Matthew. But give me a little bit more information and I'll answer your question a little bit more thorough. But it comes down to usage. And so I need to know a little bit about your usage, and then I can give you an idea of where you're going to lie, whether you're going to need a bigger inverter, whether you want to go with, use your in-house 12-volt batteries, or whether you want to go with something like the 48-volt batteries, which we're talking about tonight. But I'll give you an idea of which one you should be looking at. Should I put glue in my hands and peel it off? Not sure what you were talking about. I think I missed something. Pyro, don't be a troll. Yeah, please. Yeah, this is all about solar. If you don't want to talk about solar, please take it to another live stream somewhere else. We want to stay focused here. Hey, there we go. Paul, thank you. Paul from Facebook. Hey, Paul. This is You were on my channel just last week. Came by and picked up some more panels. So you picked up 2. So go ahead. Thank you for joining from Facebook. I wanted to, this is my first week broadcasting with Facebook. So if you are here from Facebook, thank you for coming. Welcome to the channel. And hopefully we will, I'll continue broadcasting in both going forward. And then let's take a look at not being a troll. Okay, good. That's good. I wasn't watching very close, so please. Think Ethan Worky has UR coming in 3 16 kilowatt batteries. Oh, that would be wonderful. And it's becoming more and more of a standard for all of the batteries really to fall in line with these. Now, I did see a certification retracted from a lead time battery earlier today. One of the big reviewers on the internet, Will, found that one of the batteries that we'd all kind of reviewed said it had the certification, but when he went back to actually do the test on the battery, found out it didn't have the certification. So they're taking some heat for that now. So just because they say it at this point, they're all doing it because they're trying to get people to purchase them. So make sure that you're checking the certificate that it lists that specific battery, not just lead time certificate for UL 1972 or the different certifications. You want to make sure it has specifically the one that you need for whatever your use case is. Oh, you went back to Facebook. Okay. Or you went back to YouTube. It's a good thing I recognized your name, or I would have never known. Have you looked in the SRNE batteries? I have not looked at the SRNE batteries, but I do have one of their knockoff brands, the ZL power inverter, and I had an actual power outage last night. It was kind of funny because I don't think I've ever been so excited to have a power outage. I had just finished charging my batteries up last night to synchronize some new batteries that Paul actually was here and helped me put into the storage shed, and brought my capacity up. And I just charged, and I'm sitting inside watching TV, and the power goes off. And my wife says, "Well, what happened?" Thinking, you know, I was just going to have this magic wand. I said, "Well, give me 2 minutes." And I walked outside and I plugged in the inverter and I flipped it on, and the house came back on, and I walked back in and I sat down, and she says, "Well, what happened?" I said, "Oh, I said the neighborhood went out. It'll be back on in a couple of hours." And she looks around and she says, "But it's already on." I said, "Yep, and it ain't going off again either." I left it on solar backup all night long, all the way through this morning until about 11 o'clock. I went from 76% charge to 62% charge all night long. It was fantastic. The thing ran like a champ. Think there's a 3 for $400 price difference. Yeah, probably going to be. I've heard that some of the batteries, when they switch to the certification, they're going to jump significantly. And I'm wondering if that's what happened here with these Wirren batteries, because these were originally priced at $799, and then right as I went to order my 3, they jumped to $999, and now I notice that they've got the certification. So it's very possible, NSB, that as soon as they do get that certification, that they probably will jump. All right. Colorado, I can't find a doctor live stream. Come on, Pyro. Don't make me do it. All right. Yeah, that it is, Paul. It was kind of spectacular. It was kind of one of those things. I have never been so giddy because the power went off, and my wife said to me, I don't know, it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. She says, "Well, it looks like the neighbor's lights are back on." I said, "I don't care." You know, at that point, I didn't care. I had just, when you came by, I had just installed the soft start. So I had the soft start in on the on the air conditioner. And for those of you that are looking to go off-grid, the soft start basically allows your air conditioner to start with a lower startup amperage. So instead of it pulling, in my case, instead of it pulling 80 to 90 amps to start, it changed to about 25 to 30 amps. And that meant that I had none of my devices that were resetting before. Now the inverter would start it. It was a 10 kilowatt inverter, an SRNE knockoff. Same quality, same inverter that they sent me, and I did some tests on it. It worked really well. And it was actually very reasonably priced too. But it, when the modem, and believe it or not, the cable modem, when the power would dip as the air conditioner would come on, it would suck so much juice that the voltage would drop just enough where the cable modem would restart. So I went ahead and installed the soft start to see if it would resolve it, and it has been premium, perfect. I ran all night long. As a matter of fact, this morning I kind of went in and turned the hot water heater on just to see if the hot water heater could run at the same time, and 2 minutes after the hot water came on, the air conditioner started. So it was sitting there with a 4,500 watt load, and the AC kicked on, and no problems whatsoever. So fantastic. Anyway, where was I at? So let's take a look at the where was I at here? Oh, I know where I was at. I was getting to the big battery. So we went into the WattCycle. We talked about the WattCycle. Here is the WattCycle battery, the link up at the top for the WattCycle. This is a great budget battery. Now, there are a few things that are, as I would say from Chinese companies, sometimes they exaggerate what the battery is capable of. It says 300 amps. To be honest with you, I wouldn't run it over 150. I would put 150 amp fuse on the wire and be done with it. The one thing I have noticed about this is if you're looking for a large amount of battery banks, these are $2,500 a piece until you click on this 4-pack. When you click on this 4-pack, these drop in price dramatically. They're $500 a battery off. So you basically are getting buy 3, get 1 for $500 is what it comes down to. These are a really fantastic deal. I don't think you get that deal as good. It's $7,000 there, $8,000 there. Yeah, so here you still get a little bit of a discount when you order 2 or 3, but nothing like when you order 8. If you need a large amount of power or you need your system to be on for a long time, then this is by far the cheapest power you're going to find at 2,000 bucks for 15 kilowatt hours or 16 kilowatt hours each. And that would mean that would bring you up to 64 kilowatt hours of power for $8,000, which is just crazy inexpensive. But we're still into that, but we have the Chinese company, the Chinese support, the Chinese, all of that. Not necessarily that that's all bad. We get the money up front as opposed to paying for what that support would be and what that support is. So now we're going to go to the new partnership that I'm launching officially today with the BigBattery company. Now, the BigBattery company is, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the BigBattery company is a US-based battery manufacturer. They manufacture out of Commerce, Texas, and I'm going to pull up their website too. BigBattery. They manufacture out of Commerce, Texas. They have a giant warehouse out there that you can see here. Their support is in Commerce, Texas. So when you call for help, you get someone in Commerce, Texas. They remind me a lot of Signature Solar, and I don't know why the two companies are so closely associated in my mind. And maybe that's because the EG4 and is both distributor to both of them, and BigBattery is a distributor to Signature Solar, so they both work together there. The difference between them and Signature Solar is BigBattery is a battery manufacturer. They build the batteries there themselves. Now, it is designed to support it. Now, the question is, and last week I touted a little bit that I was going to do an interview with their CEO and one of their founders, and I have reevaluated that, talk with them, and we are going to do 2 interviews with them, one with their CEO and then one with their CTO, their Chief Technical Officer. So the first one's going to be business related, where we talk and we interview them and we talk about the company as a whole and what are their designs, where did they come from, what do they do, and what is their mentality, what are they really thinking. It's a very competitive market to jump into, and if you can imagine, if you were a business owner deciding to jump in and compete against the Chinese prices and all of that is not an easy thing to do. So I want to know where he's thinking about that. That was part of the conversations I've had with them, were part of why I went in and worked the deal with BigBattery. And working with them, the more I've worked with them, the better I felt about that. And my first video comes out tomorrow morning, except for all of you watching the live stream tonight. When we finish it tonight, I will give you a sneak peek of tomorrow morning's video, unless you're a member of the channel. If you're a member of the channel, the video is going to be posted live on the channel for you, early access to it immediately following the live stream also. But you can watch it there for complete sake. So them being building their batteries there, you can see their plant here. They sell all kinds of batteries. Now the one that they sent me was the BigBattery 48 volt NEXUS 15 kilowatt LifePower4 lithium iron phosphate battery. It's an off-grid home backup battery. Now this is between, as I call it, the middle tier of what you would find for, and I got the wrong code up on the screen. Let me just make sure I get the right one for you guys. BigBattery, there we go. This is what I would call the middle tier. Now they carry more than just this battery. They carry upper tier batteries and they carry these middle tier batteries. And the reason I call them middle tier is this one doesn't have things like the UL 1940 certification, but it has all the other features that go along with it. So it does have the fire suppression tools. It does have the communications that works with the inverters. As a matter of fact, one of the communications was one of the strong points of the battery as I was playing with it. And last night as it was running my house, and I believe it's actually still connected right now. I go over to my Home Assistant to my inverter. So it says EG4 48 volt rack batteries, but this is actually the BigBattery. It's at 66%. So you can see I'm back up to 65%. Even with selling all of my panels the last couple of days, I'm still getting there. I'm using a little bit more grid than I like to. But anyway, so this battery is their off-grid version. They do have a lot of other grid-tied type batteries. See if I can show them. I know I saw them up on the screen just a second ago. Where did they go? There they are. See if I can get them to pop up. So their Ethos series is their grid-tied versions. Now, I'm not reviewing their grid-tied versions today. I'm doing their off-grid. As all of you know, I like the off-grid solution. My house does have a grid-tied solution, but it doesn't have battery backup. So I just use my off-grid solution very much like a generator. When my system goes down, my house is zeroed anyway. But when my system goes down, I plug in my solar shed to the house and run it just like it was a generator. It just powers everything. So that's how I've been operating until I move into a bigger and better home. But for now, this battery is listed at 2980. It's 15 kilowatts. There were some 280 amp hour versions and some 300 amp hour versions. The one that's listed on their website is a 300. I have the 280. Other than the cell sizes, the amp hour size, they're the same battery. Everything seems to be about the same. They have also got discounts for when you order multiple batteries, and I haven't actually done the math on them. Let's just do it real quick. I don't know what you save, $28.90. What happens if I got 6 of them? Oh, it doesn't show me on the screen. You do get free shipping with orders over 3,000, so that's nice. Oh, and 10% off on the 4th of July special. That's even better. So, and then there's a coupon code in there for me also. Mattman5 is the coupon code for the big battery. So make sure if you're going to order one of those that you use the coupon code. But the thing that I like the best about BigBattery, and I'm going to give it to you, and you'll probably hear about it also in the video. But the biggest thing about this was their support was there, right there in Commerce, and their batteries were not based on cycles. Now, a lot of companies are telling you, 8,000 cycles, 6,000 cycles, 5,000 cycles, and I can't even tell you how many live streams when somebody tells me, well, what is a cycle? Well, and everyone says, well, a cycle is when you discharge and then you charge up. Yes, but unfortunately, most battery BMSs count a charge and a cycle when the battery starts to discharge. And that means that if the sun comes in and out 4 or 5 times a day, you might get 5 cycles out of that battery without ever moving at all. So a lot of it is very dependent upon how your BMS is counting it and stuff like that. BigBattery approaches that differently. They approach it the same way that your dishwasher or your refrigerator is approached. You bought it, you have a 12-year warranty with a BigBattery. And that means that they're going to be here for 12 years. Now, the biggest difference is that they're here in the US. They've already been here for years, and they're not going anywhere. So 12 years from now, you'll be able to get your warranty, which a lot of the Chinese batteries, the one thing that I learned in all of my investigations leading up to building working with BigBattery, is I did some investigation on a lot of the Chinese companies, and the standard life expectancy of a Chinese battery company is between 2 and 5 years. And a lot of that relates to the fact that they start these companies, and as the lawsuits pile up, they're allowed to roll the company up and close it down and then spawn it up under a new, the equivalent of what we call an LLC. And that allows them to walk away from all that liability and start their new company. And that is kind of the gist of why a lot of that happens. So let's get into the specs of the BigBattery, though. The BigBattery, the NEXUS BigBatteries is a 48-volt battery. The price per kilowatt is very reasonable for a middle-tier battery. So you have the WattCycle down at 500 volts where you have none of the suppression equipment, you have none of the safety features or any of that stuff. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have the EG4 that has all the certifications and all of the stuff, but their Walmart battery is $3,400, about $900 more. This one's pretty much in the middle of the road, and if you use the discount code, you can cut quite a bit of that off also. Especially this weekend with right now where they have the special running on 10% off and free shipping over 3,000. Now, in order to get over 3,000, unfortunately, you're going to have to order more than one. But they're very user-friendly, and they do have, and I think I have a picture of those? Let me just see if I got a good close-up picture of them here real quick. Yeah, we can use this. Well, it isn't big, but it'll have to do. Okay. Oh, you know what? I can zoom in on it. I can use a Mac now, so now it makes it easier to do that. Okay. All right. So the battery itself, I clicked on the wrong button. Sorry, guys. Here we go. All right. So the battery itself, I want to show you it is more of a box than it is that thin, narrow, top-heavy battery that they come out with. The nice thing about this is that you don't have to attach it to a wall. You don't have to bolt it down. You don't have to screw it down. It does have on the bottom of the coasters at the bottom of the battery, down here at the bottom, these giant coasters, and you can screw those down into the ground where they're like giant rubber legs that hold into the ground. Very stable, very reliable, very good. I've had great luck with that. That's these right here in this area, and they work really good. And they're elephant feet, so they don't look exactly like this picture, but they work really well. In the back of the battery, there it is. So here in the back of the battery, the battery terminals are underneath these two plastic cases here. And so you have basically, they are standard terminal wires, just like you would get on a normal battery, normal 13 millimeter battery terminal on there. They're not using the quick connects. And I'm kind of torn between liking the quick connects and not liking the quick connects, because a lot of the quick connects are custom sizes and designs where you have to buy a specific one and you have to get it through their distributor. Once they actually get to the point where those are commonplace and all a standard size, man, will I love the quick connects. But tonight I'm a little disappointed in the lack of that the quick connects aren't like that. They're all different sizes. They're all custom, and you have to order them and you can't find them, and so on and so forth. So in this particular one, the battery itself, they don't even show it. I thought they would. Yeah, underneath there's just a standard terminal. Then you have 3 RS-485 ports. The cool part about this one is this middle one, RS-485-2. This picture's got to be a little old because that's a /CAN port. And you can basically just take your EG4 inverter, your 6000 XP, your 12,000 XP, your FlexBoss, there's a slew of batteries that are just supported on that. And I probably have an image I could show you on that too, of all the different batteries that it supports. But there's just a slew of what am I trying to say? Batteries that it supports. But the cool part is it doesn't just support them. Sorry, I'm looking for the screen where I have I thought I had it right here. There it is. Okay. Let's see if I can go back to sharing that screen now. There we go. So this is the list of compatible batteries with it. Now, the cool part about the compatibility list here, this doesn't mean you have to fight with dip switches and configurations and set this and set that. The only dip switches you have to do is you do have to set up the numeric order of the batteries. But once that's done, the communication for all of these inverters, and as you can see, you've got the Solarcs in here, the Lux Powers in here, the SRNEs, the Grow Watts, the EG4s, the Victrons, the SMAs, the Studers, the Dyes, the Goodwill, and the, I can't even say that last one, Mega Revo. You plug them in and they work. You don't have to go and set which type of protocol. You don't have to say that it's a Pylon or it's EG4 or it's Lux Power. You don't have to go configure it. You just plug it in, it senses it, and it starts working. And it worked really, really well. It was really nice to plug it in. And I love the square design that these had also. I wonder if I could zoom in on that one. Wow, I just cannot get this zoom to work for me tonight. There it goes. But because they're square, they're very stable. You can't push them over, you can't knock them over, and then those caster wheels really hold them in place. Now, where are these batteries good for as opposed to the other types of batteries that we've been talking about? And so let's go back to our little conversation that we started way back in the beginning. And boy, you guys got quiet out there. You stopped chatting all of a sudden. So we started with the EG4 and the Wirren rack mount batteries. They weigh about 100 pounds. You can pick them up and move them. You can buy racks to go with them. The EG4 rack has a 600 amp bus bar in it, and you connect the 4-aught wires to the bus bar, and then the bus bar to either your inverter or your internal bus bar. Then you have the Wirren WIREN batteries. These have dual terminals, and they come with 2-gauge wire that allows you to connect the terminals to each other, because there is no bus bar in the rack. If you buy it, the rack is a lot less expensive. It's about $180, I think it is. And if you follow the signature solar link down below, you can find one of those. Or if you follow the Wirren link, you can find that. That allows you to operate that way with the correct cables and run it that way. Then we went into the WattCycle battery as a 16 kilowatt battery with 300 amp hour output. Probably more safely can be operated at about 150 amp hours. But it was the Chinese manufacture and support and distribution that becomes really the gambling piece there, and why you have such a savings on it also. Then you have the big battery that we went through. This is a 16 kilowatt battery. I think it's 15 kilowatts. It does not have the quick connects on the side where you can connect and daisy chain the batteries together through the quick connects. It has lugs, standard lugs that you connect to your own bus bar and run them that way. It does support up to 8 to 15 in parallel, and the communication cables work the same as any other battery, whereas, so you would use these communication cables going through these ports here. Now, the other nice thing about this battery is that it also has forgive me while I look up it was an important aspect of it. I want to make sure I point it out. It has the IP54 rating, and an IP54 rating means that it is dust protected and weather under protected areas. Now, what does that mean? It means that it can't be placed in the middle of your yard like a normal outside battery, but it can be protected in a protected area. It means it can be, as long as it's covered, it doesn't suffer any direct rain, any direct water, but any light sprinkles and stuff like that, and dust, it would not be effective. So it has a lot of the features that you're going to find in your higher up batteries, bringing us to the EG4 battery. The EG4 wall mount battery being about $300 more, the same size, mostly the same features, and then EG4 has a battery up from that truly is an external battery that you mount on the outside of your house, and that brings you up into the $3,600, $3,700 range. All right, now let's talk about the fun one. Seeing it in person, I will say it looks good, simple and clean, would not look out of place in a living space. Well, that's probably very true. It is quite nice looking up front. Now let's talk about the DIY battery, because this is the one that used to be the big thing. I have a 304 amp hour DIY battery. You build the battery cells, you buy the battery cells independently, which I did. They were shipped from a Chinese manufacturer in mainland China. They were placed on a boat, and I got to watch them for 2 months slowly cruise across the ocean into the California port. They sat in the port for about 6 days before they were placed on a truck, and then traveled for about 9 days before they made it to my house. Back then, it was pretty traditional that when you got a battery in, that you charged all the cells independently. So I charged them all, I tested them all, and if you look back at the very beginning of my channel, you will see some of when I very first got involved, me charging those cells, and I actually was playing on a forum, and I was showing somebody how to charge the cells. Had no intentions of starting a YouTube channel. Then I bought a JK BMS, and you put everything together yourself. You build, I have built that battery twice. The first time I built it in the RV, and I put it in a nice compression pieces of plywood with steel rods that went through and tightened it down on the side. It fit perfectly in the compartment of the front of the RV, so I cut the plywood to match and compressed it in there. Worked perfectly. Went RV skipping with my wife. We spent 18, actually it was closer to 22 months. I keep thinking too short of the 2 years, but 2 years is 24 months, not 20 months. 22 months we spent on the road. We hit every beach that we could ever find. The best ones were probably down in the south part of Texas. They've got some free beaches down there where you hard sand, where you just drive your RV right out on the beach, park it, lower your things, disconnect your truck, and the only limiting factor you have is how much water and storage for waste you have. Now, keep in mind, I had 32 kilowatt hours of battery power at 3,700 watts of solar on the roof. I had no air conditioners, no standard RV air conditioners. I had mini splits that I had mounted on the RV and in the RV. I pulled all the air conditioners off of the roof, covered it with 10 370 watt bifacial panels, and a 6000 XP inverter, just like the one that's up here on the wall. I had Victron charge controller that was external. For those of you who saw my later, as I began to travel a lot, I had my home base, I had the solar shed, the very first solar shed that was covered in the 12 panels, which if any of you are curious, I have not sold the 12 panels. I am selling off all the used panels and getting new ones, but I'm not selling the original 12 that came from the solar shed. And I used it for extra power, so it was an additional 3,000 watts. Probably acted more like 2,000 watts because of some of the half of the panels were vertical. But that battery took time and effort. Now, I'll admit, I paid $1,112 for it. It was a 16 kilowatt battery a couple of years ago. And today, right now, a 16 kilowatt budget battery is $2,500. So was it or is it a good deal? Yes, it is a good deal. It is a great deal price-wise. Price-wise. So let me tell you some of the downside. If you like doing things yourself and you have the patience and you want to take the time to build a battery, I absolutely recommend it. It is the most fun I have had, and there is nothing more that I want to do than go out and buy some of those MB56 battery cells, those 628 amp battery cells, and build me a, God, how big would that be? 32 kilowatt hour battery. Nothing more than I want to do than that. I haven't done it yet because I've been building all of this stuff instead. But it is a tremendous amount of fun. There is a lot that can go wrong if you're not very careful, but as long as you're careful and you take every safety precaution and you have the patience to make sure that every connection you get is right, and then you double check and make sure every one of them stays right and that you validate them. You have to torque all your screws correctly. You have to check all your lead wires correctly. You have to zip tie all your connections and your things together. You build the case, you build the things. Now, I found the easiest way to put them together was 2x6s, and you cut the 2x6s and you just screw them together. You drop the cells in the middle and you screw them together, and the 2x6s hold it together, and it sits on a wooden base in my shed. Works perfectly. I was just mentioning to Paul. Paul was here the other day picking up some used panels and helping me move a couple of batteries. I was mentioning to him that I think it was I think it would be cool to take a wooden case and just drop it over top of it now and make it kind of an official thing. I am in Florida. JSMZs. This is JSMZs. JSMZs. I am in Florida. So, it was probably the most fun I've had in solar. Unfortunately, there is just so much to do. You know, I love building my systems. And a lot of people say, well, you know, how do you build all this and then take it all down? And I'm like, to be honest with you, everything I build is temporary. There's nothing I haven't built that wasn't. I put it together, I build it all up, and then I tear it all down. Now, I do get stubborn about it sometimes. Like right now, I'm sitting at about 70 kilowatt hours of battery power, and it ran my entire house all last night and everything when the power went out. And I'm thinking, this is pretty cool, and it's hurricane season, and I might just sit around and just wait for the hurricane to get here. I never got giddy when the power went out before, but I did last night. I was like, heck yeah, go ahead, power company, go out, see if I care. And then I just refused to take it off because it was late. I didn't want to go back out there. Oh, nice. I am probably, I don't know if you're familiar with Florida, but the East Coast, Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, Palm Bay area. And writing with Paul says building is the fun part. It absolutely is. The playing with it, the doing it and stuff like that. And then I have a lot of what I usually do is I'll usually have about 4 or 5 different projects going on at one time, because inevitably when you're building, if you don't have the patience to wait for pieces and parts to come in, you start taking shortcuts and things don't come out the way you want. So what I'll do is I'll work on something until I run into a blocker of some kind where I need a particular part. I'll order the part, and then I'll go on and work on something else. And then I get back to that. And now what ends up happening occasionally is I'll have 4 or 5 videos all partially done, and then I'll have 4 or 5 videos already because parts come in, they always come in together, and it just happens like that. But that for me, that in this, you guys, this chat, this conversation, you guys talking, NSB's comments, let's see what he has to say. I haven't done wire management on a panel because it's hurricane season. You haven't done it because it's hurricane season? Or you have done it because it's hurricane season? Oh, you're putting it off because it's hurricane season? Yeah. Well, I want to move just because I want to put a new solar system on the house. So that's about as bad as it gets. This one's got this grid-tied system that's all warranted. It's kind of like, I want to move just so I have to put a new solar system up. How bad is that? But anyway, back to all of that. The DIY. Now, I'm kind of going to go through some of these points here about the different pluses and minuses from them. DIY is by far the less friendly. The most friendly, probably the BigBattery, except at the weight. The weight is really, really bad, but it handles the comms well, that kind of stuff. The WattCycle, the comms is a little bit screwy. I didn't have as much luck with it. The EG4 and the Wirren batteries, both you set them and they pretty much work. The EG4 I think that is a little easier to work with, but only because its choices are more limited. In other words, it works with the EG4 equipment and pylon reading equipment, and that's pretty much it. It's got its standard list. The rest of them have a much more extended list, and you can change the protocols around and work with a much more expanded list of equipment. Now, just because you can't use the state of charge doesn't mean anything to me though, because I run on battery voltage all the time anyway, with very rare exception like today. And that was just because I was working on pieces of the video when I connected it all up, and then I just said, I'll just leave it until tomorrow. And then the power went out and I started using it there. Writing with Paul, same here. I need to bring them in a hurry. Haven't done battery management on my panels because it's hurricane season. Same here. I haven't done it. I need to bring them in a hurry. Not sure what we're bringing in a hurry. You've been driving around town for a week with panels on your roof, Paul. What are you talking about bringing them in? Orlando. We go to Cocoa Beach on a regularly. Oh, okay. So you're one of the inland people. Yeah, the traffic there got too bad. I moved from Dallas back, oh gosh almighty, how has it been? 13 years now. I moved from the DFW area here, and when we did, the traffic was non-existent, and I'm not sure I could do it anymore. I used to drive to work every day and I would spend, you know, an hour and 15 minutes on the highway and DFW 635 loop, driving 10, 15, 20 miles. Probably the only thing worse than that is either Houston or LA. Well, maybe New York too. That was pretty bad. And New Smyrna Beach. All right. We're all over the place. So the idea here is that there's a battery to fit all of us. Whether you want the 100-pound EG4s or Wirren rack mount batteries and other rack mount batteries, there's plenty of them out there. At whatever level you want them, the grid-tied versions like the EG4s to the cheap Chinese $700, you know, rack mount batteries. They all weigh about 100 pounds. They all do about the same job. It just depends on what kind of certifications you need to do your job. If you're working off grid and stuff, then by all means, you can probably get away with the cheap stuff. These are the easiest to move around. They're only about 100 pounds. Two people can easily move them. One can do it unless they're trying to put them into a rack where they don't fit. I am going to weld that rack though, Paul. So in the Wirren rack, there are screws right here at the top. And what I decided to do is if I take those screws out, the EG4 batteries will fit in there, but there is nothing to hold the shelf up. So I'm going to actually weld the shelf onto the rack and then remove the screws. And then I won't need the screws, and the battery, the EG4 batteries will fit into this rack. It ought to be a cool solution, but we'll see. I'm not going to lie, I still have them on my roof yesterday's pickup. Was talking about the wire management not being done in case I need to bring panels in fast. Yeah, well, I did some wire management earlier today. I cleaned up all the wire off the floor and put it up, routed it around up off the ground. And the reason I did is I found an MC4 splitter that I was using to combine some things that was supposed to be temporary, and somehow I forgot it was there. And the third one of those was down on the ground. And I guess when it rained, it shorted out and it just fried the whole end of it. It was just crazy. So I went back through and cleaned up all the wire and got it all off the ground and everything. And you guys all took all my panels. I sold all my panels off for $30 and $40 a piece. And I've got an order in for some new panels. So coming to you soon. You should look at the new panels. I'll bring them up to date since we've talked about batteries pretty extensively. Let me show you a couple of the specials going on right now. Most of these are good until tomorrow morning. So if you're looking to purchase something, you are here at the right time. EG4 or Signature Solar has a fantastic deal going on right now on shipping. If you're ordering over a certain amount, over $3,000, you get free shipping. But the deal of the century are these panel deals. And so let me just show you what I mean by that. Here you've got 30 395 watt panels for $2,000. Yes, you heard that right. That is $67 a panel, brand new. Now, there will be some significant amount of shipping in there unless you order quite a few, and I don't think the free shipping applies to solar panels anyway. I think it only applies to batteries and inverters and stuff. But that is a ridiculously good price, and it goes off of sale tomorrow. So if you are interested in picking up some very good panels, now there are a lot of great 4th of July sales here, and they're all ridiculously good. $71 panels we just talked about, $107 415 panels. Now I'm going to put up a QR code for Signature Solar so that you have it. Matter of fact, I'll put up the parts list This is my my website and all of the equipment that I use, but there'll be a signature solar link and my discount code of MMS50 for Matman, $50 off for anything over $500. You'll get that. The cells are just fantastic for 4th of July, though. The CW panels, 38 cents a watt for 595 watt bifacials for 226. That is just crazy prices on those. Be very cautious when you're ordering the big panels like this, though. A lot of them will have warnings that tell you that you have to have special places to drop them, that they can't come on a standard truck. So make sure you do that, or you'll have to have a dock to unload them for some of the big ones. Most of them you can get away without the dock. Some of the really nicer panels are very, very expensive here, but they're very, very, very nice panels. But this one just blew my mind. It's absolutely ridiculous how cheap those are. It's just a great deal if you're looking for any type of new panels. They've got two here. So they're $71 a piece. Minimum of 10 is the order, or you can get a pallet at the $67 a piece for 2014. It's just an amazing deal. There are a lot of other 4th of July sales on those, so let me show you a few of those other than just panels. Let's see if we have... Why am I only seeing panels? Why? So here are some of their deals here. So 102s marked down to 67, 116 marked down to 103. And you can see that, and these are huge. I mean, these CW panels at 595 watts are just crazy at 220. Those are just obnoxiously cheap too. They've got some good deals on all of their kits, and bundles are 5% off. And that doesn't sound like a big discount, but when you start looking at some of these bundles are $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, it's a big deal. 4th of July, $1,300 per battery module. These are for the Outback batteries. For those of you who are using the Outback battery modules, they've got the upgrades there for a very reasonable price. And then, of course, the EG4 18K PV bundle. This is probably one of the best selling bundles that they have. It comes with a 280 amp hour wall mount battery, an 18K PV inverter, and it is on sale for $8,000. So it's got a pretty good deal there. And if you wanted to upgrade it to have more power, this is truly a whole home solution. And it is a all-weather outside mounted inverter and battery, which means you can mount them on the outside of your house next to your panel. You don't have to pay a ton for wiring or a fuse box, and you can run your whole house on it as opposed to just part of it. All right, I think I have covered everything. When it comes down to it on batteries, there's a battery for everybody. Between the rack mount, carrying them around, the wall mounts, which are mounted in your house, the big batteries, which are up on wheels that you can roll around, which are the ones that I like, or even the DIY that you have to build your own rack and everything. Those are pretty cool too. And then the different variety and mixing and matching of them. I use a combination of the rack mount batteries that I can move into my RV. If I'm going traveling in my RV, I can put them in my wife's coffee trailer or her dessert trailer, depending on which one she's going to and how much power she needs. I can add them. She did an initial launch of her dessert trailer with the 6,000 watts to 3,000 EHVs last week. Fantastic event. No generator. Used about 11 kilowatt hours out of 3 of the EG4 batteries. It ran like a champ. Everything was fully functional, and she even added a couple of big warmers and heaters on me at the last minute, and she ran the air conditioner the whole time. It was yucky, miserable in Florida. Here on the coast on, what night was that? It was Thursday night last week. It had rained before then. The humidity was probably at 90%. The temperature was probably 90 degrees. Probably felt like 102 that day. It was just muggy and nasty. But That said, it was a fantastic event. The trailer came off without a hitch, but those are portable. That was what was nice about them. This one and this one, they're really not portable. This one you can move around a little bit, but it comes with 15 kilowatt hours. It's good and stable, and rolling it around is not a big deal. I don't advise rolling the WattCycle around. It's a little top heavy, would be a little bit dangerous, could easily be tipped over. If you've got it sitting somewhere up against a wall or something, like I know that I got a couple of customers that did that, to decided not to mount it to the wall so that they could kind of like leave something right behind it. That's okay as long as you're not moving it around and bumping it around a lot. And then of course you have the DIY battery, which is really something that in most cases you're going to mount it somewhere good and stable. You're not going to be moving it around. Although I have seen them on slide out drawers and cabinets of that nature and that kind of stuff. So that would work also. Those are really the big choices with 48 volt batteries, from small, mostly portable, to big, not portable. And then you have the big beast, the variation of this battery or this battery, these big Walmart batteries that are even bigger. They've got them in the 600 amp hour, and they've got a new 900 amp hour. The 900 amp hour that I've seen was three 314 amp hour cells ran in parallel. So it was a 3P16S, which a normal battery is 16S. This one had three 314 amp hours ran in parallel, and then those were series 16 at a time. Huge battery. Really, really cool for a house. Reliability, we'll have to see long term. Do having multiple cells make the battery more reliable or less reliable? If you only have one that goes out, then at least you don't lose your whole battery. At the same time, how often should a cell in a battery go out? Based on the lives and the warranties that we've seen, not very often. All right, guys. I am going to play the new video for the big battery video that comes out tomorrow morning. I want to thank everybody for coming and being here this week. Know that here soon we will be doing the big battery interviews. I will have two of them. One will be with the big battery CEO, and then one will be with the big battery CIO. They should be really interesting, and I encourage you to attend and ask your questions. And that would be a great, fun time. Now, what was I going to do? I was going to show you guys the video for this. All right. Let me see if I can get this to display the way I want it to. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to add a, hold on just a second. We're going to add a screen where you can just see it without me in the way. Well, thought I was anyway. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. I don't know if that'll work, but we'll try it. All right. That's it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Enjoy. Let's be honest. Over the last couple of years, I've reviewed a lot of batteries for you guys, but this time it's something special. And honestly, most of them all look kind of the same. They have the same cells, they have the same BMSs, they have the same kind of equipment and cases. First, Well, that stinks. Why can't you hear that? All right, let's try this again. Sorry about that, guys. Thought I had done this right. Oh, I see what I'm doing wrong. All right. Let me get this all right for you. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to booger that up. Wasn't me, it was the cat. And I just got to go and pick the right video. I didn't know I had to do it this way. No big deal. Here it is. All right, let's be honest. Over the last couple of years, I've reviewed a lot of batteries for you guys, but this time it's something special. And honestly, most of them all look kind of the same. They have the same cells, they have the same BMSs, they have the same kind of equipment and cases. First, this is a BigBattery from an American company with American support lines located in Texas, and I believe even some in California. So we're no longer looking at just Chinese companies shipping us batteries and no support, no follow-up, no nothing. Second, there's no warranty based on cycles that you don't have any definition of how it's tracked. You don't know if they're just calculating it every time that it starts to go into discharge mode, which most of them do. This one is 12 years. A 12-year warranty from the day you get it to the day your warranty ends. Cycles don't matter. Use your battery. That's what I've been telling you. Use your battery, and this one's going to allow you to do that. And third, there's something inside this battery that I haven't seen inside the others. So let's find out if it's worth its price. Now, let me be perfectly clear. BigBattery did send me this battery, and they are sponsoring this video. But in no way do they have any control over the content of what I produce. We worked out a deal, so I would produce content for the battery, but they don't control the content. Now, let's get on to the unboxing so we can get on taking a look at this BigBattery. Now, you'll note that this battery comes in a crate. Now, like most batteries that are shipped to you, this one's a little bit different when it comes to that also, is that this one's a little bit more of a square box. And really you need two tools to open it up. Now, it is a heavy booger. We're talking about 280 amp hour upright battery that goes against the wall. Now, they did solve a little bit that comes with the top heavy part of it, but we'll get into that later. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is pry out these walls here and bend out these clamps with a screwdriver. And usually what I'll take is a hammer and knock those clamps down, and you'll see, and I've already loosened this one a little bit, but you're going to want to knock these clamps down, flatten them out all the way around. And this will allow you to lift the cover off of this battery. It is shipped in a good solid wood box, and these clamps, they're all the way around it. So you just basically want to fold these out, and I usually just stick the screwdriver in the clamp, pry it out as much as possible, and then hammer them straight. And once you hammer them straight, you can lift this cover right off the box. So let's talk about some of the parts that come with it. It comes with a couple of sets of wires. Now, I don't know if it's standard to have two sets of wires, but there was a set that was in with the battery itself, tucked up underneath, and then there was this set that was in a separate box. Now, this set has little rubber booties on it to protect the lugs and everything. And the other set is just regular lugs. So I think it's nice that it comes with two sets. It is 2-AUG wire, and it's 200 degrees Celsius wire. So it is capable of handling the throughput of 160 amps, which is what the specs call for. So that's kind of nice to see that the wires are going to support it, especially with two of them. So if you have any problems whatsoever, you could definitely hook up the second one and make sure that you're not having, if you're going to be draining it at a high rate, then you're going to probably want to do that. It also comes with a printed manual It's pretty nice. The manual is multi-purpose for the more common 300 amp hour battery, and then this one, the 280 amp hour battery. Now the cases are the same. I've noticed that some of the labeling and stuff is still the same, but they are interchangeably, whether they're 280 or 300 amp hours. So let me just rotate it around here and kind of show you. It has a nice wide profile. So unlike a lot of the batteries, you don't get to tip this one over very easy. It actually is quite easily stands up on its own. Now you'll see that it comes in this very sturdy pallet at the bottom, and then the box that you saw us take off of the top here. So when you get this thing off, for one person, it is quite difficult to do it. Now, I have managed to do it. I dollied it back to the shed and brought it up in here, and then I also took it off of this pallet at the same time. It is probably advisable that you do have two people, though. Now, moving on to the rest of the connectors here. On the back, I'm quite fond of the quick connects, but I'm only really fond of them if they can come up with a standard where you can buy the connectors wherever you want, and there's some kind of norm with them. Otherwise, I would prefer battery terminals like this, where I can just connect the darn battery to a bus bar and be done with it. If I wanted to parallel more than one, the batteries and the cables that come with it are long enough that I could easily reach 2 or 3 of these sets to a nice bus bar, and a big 600 amp or whatever size bus bar you were going to be using would be plenty in size to support multiple of these. Now you can run 16 of them in parallel, so that's kind of nice. But let's take a look at the other connections here. So in addition to the bus bar or the battery connections on the end, you have an RS485-1, an RS485-2, and it doubles as a CAN port, and an RS485-3. So basically the use for this is as RS485 primary to connect to a inverter or such using RS485, and then these are used to daisy chain the batteries together so that your communications picks up on all the batteries. You obviously come out of 2 into 1, out of 2 into 1, and daisy chain all the way down the line. So that's quite simple here. Let's take a quick look inside. So this is labeled ADDR, so I'm assuming this is the address, how you can set the address up. The nice thing about this battery is that all of your connectors, all of your case pieces are all sealed inside of here. Now, although this is an internal battery, they still have a nice seal here. So you can see there is a rubber seal around the edge, and the address thing is right here, but it's very protected behind this bar where it doesn't get accidentally switched, changed, or anything like that. And so, but it's still quite accessible. The battery itself is quite stable. It doesn't tump or roll over like a lot of the other ones do. And so you don't have to worry about this one falling on you or tipping over on you on accident. The off-on switch is here, and when you turn it on, the indicator of state of charge is right here, right on the front, with a nice percentage and a green ring. So once you get it into a place and you get it out of the box, you're going to notice these large wheels that have locking mechanisms on it. So it rolls around quite easy on these wheels, not too much trouble. But you do have this twist bar here that if you twist this, that leg comes down, that rubber, this is a giant rubber insole, and it locks the wheels in place, and then it doesn't roll around and move on you. Now I'm going to roll it back up because I do need to push it back into place here to show you how to connect it. But you'll notice that makes it very easy for you to put this into place, not worry about it tipping over, and screw the legs down to the floor and not worry about it. You don't have to worry about mounting it to a wall. You don't have to worry about putting brackets, screwing brackets onto the side and attaching it. You don't have to worry about hanging it from the side because this battery is large enough and stable enough to hold itself. All right, so here is a close-up view of the negative battery terminal. So in the positive battery terminal, the address block, the RS485, 3 ports, and the CAN port being here in the middle. And then if we turn this around, you'll see it has the off-on switch on the side here for the NEXUS 280 amp hour battery. And on front, very clean display with the percentage of charge control and a very inconspicuous battery label to remind you it is a big battery, the source for power. All right, so let me talk about what interests me about this battery. And you know me, I've done a lot of reviews of batteries, and almost all of them are overseas batteries. One thing that interested me is this is an American company. Now, does that mean that every part is made here in America? Very doubtful. I'm sure a lot of the cells and stuff are still shipped in from China, just like a lot of the other batteries. But it's a move in the right direction. But it also means that when you need support, you pick up the phone and somebody in Texas answers it. Somebody in California answers it. And from what I understand, that's where their two support calls are. You're not going to get someone overseas that doesn't that you can't understand, and that you don't return your phone call or don't answer your phone. You're going to get somebody here in Texas. You're going to get somebody in Texas to answer your phone and talk to you about support, and they're going to know what they're doing. Second, if you have a warranty issue, the warranty goes to Texas. It doesn't go back to China. It doesn't go around the world. It doesn't have all these problems, and you don't have this issue of who do you talk to, how long does it take, and overnight communications, because overnight communications are a real pain. You send a message one day at 10 a.m. and you don't get an answer until 3 in the morning the next day. And you have a problem 5 minutes later, they're already gone for the day. So that was the second really big thing. And those are the two really big ones. You order it here in America, you get your support here in America, and you get your warranty here in America. Those three things in itself, in my mind, make it worth a little more than a Chinese battery. Now, if you want to save a couple $100, then sure. On a battery like this that runs around $3,000, if you want to save a couple $100 to not have somebody in the US to answer the phone calls, or to not have somebody to take your support, or to not have your warranty handled here, if you want real honest American support by a real honest American company that wants to build batteries and make you proud of them, then this is the battery for you. All right, so let's talk about some of the other things that BigBattery does differently. One of the big significant differences that I saw in the warranty, and then I asked them about, I specifically said, tell me about your warranty. What is different about it? And they were quite honest with me to say, look, a lot of these companies are doing things based on cycles. And if you know me, you've always known I've questioned, what is the definition of a cycle? Is it when it goes down and comes back up? Is it 20% down and 20% up? A lot of these manufacturers are, every time the battery starts to have a discharge, that counts as a cycle. Others are at 80% cycle rate of, 80% discharge, 80% charge, somewhere this or that. There is no definition of what a cycle is, and they're basing your warranty off of it. And I've seen some of my batteries that discharge 10 or 12% in a day, and sometimes get one cycle, sometimes get two cycles. So you don't know. BigBattery doesn't look at cycles. The warranty is just like everything else. Everything else in this world, it's 12 years. So for the next 12 years, you're going to actually be able to call an American company, talk to someone, and they're going to be able to warranty your battery, and they'll be around for the next 12 years. Unlike a lot of the Chinese companies that basically get into the lawsuits, get into problems, and then eventually 3 years after that the ride ends, they cancel that company. They close that formation of that company, they spawn up another one, and another battery company comes out. It's a cycle that never ends, and it's one that they've been doing for years, and unfortunately, that is the downside to getting a lot of our batteries from overseas companies. That's what makes BigBattery different. Now, I've said it in many different ways, but the one thing I want to stress here is this is designed, sold, and supported in an American company in Texas. When you call support, you'll get one. When you call sales, you'll get one. When you order one, they're shipped from Texas. So you're not going to be talking to any of the Chinese companies. You're not going to have to worry about any Chinese companies folding down and not being there. You're going to have a good old-fashioned American company supporting it for you straight from here in good old America. All right, fast specs It is a 48 volt class battery running at 51.2 nominal voltage. It is 280 amp hours. The version that I have, they do come in also 300 amp hour variations and probably others. It is a LifePower4 or a lithium iron phosphate chemistry. It is a indoor, this is an indoor variation of the battery. They do sell indoor, outdoor variations, but this one is an indoor variation. It does have CAN and RS485. The cool part about the CAN is if you're running any of the EG4 inverters or anything, I simply plugged it in. It is automatic and it just started working. It is expandable up to 16 batteries running in parallel. It does have a smart BMS, which is accessible from the top cover here, as opposed to the battery cells, which are accessible from the back cover here, and then all of your connections from this section here. So each piece is compartmentalized, which is extremely different from a lot of the other batteries that you've seen out there, where you have cases and covers, and in some cases you have to take off wheels to be able to take off the cover, to be able to take off the laminate sheets to be able to get to the actual battery, or even on top of that take off the BMS in order to be able to get down to the battery. This one you have an individual cover that lets you get to all the connections and the BMS, another cover that allows you to get to the cells, and everything is right there nice and neat, and we'll go over that too in depth and take a look at the insides and understand what those pieces are. Let me show you a few things that I've tested. The screen here reports exactly the same as the BMS does through the communications. Communications is extremely easy to hook up, and we're going to actually connect the battery up next, and I'm going to show you that and how to get it to communicate with an EG4 6000 XP. As you can see here, I'm up against my battery bank. My battery buses are back there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the negative and the positive wire. We're going to connect this battery up, and then I'm going to hook up communications and show you exactly how it works. So first, I'm just going to roll this battery in. I've put a slot right here for it. I'm just going to slide it in next to this battery. And we're just going to start by, the battery is off. So I'm just going to start by connecting the negative terminal on the negative side here. Now, I do want to point out as I'm connecting these, I am pointing the wires directly to the side for both the negative and the positive here. So we're going to do it this way. And the reason we're doing that is that once we tighten this down, then we have these covers that we can use to cover these connections completely, and that will prevent there from being any accidental touches while you're back here. All right, now that we have the battery connected, I'm going to turn the battery on, and we'll see the screen come on, and it is 76%. And then that means now that it is connected up to the other batteries. All right, now that the battery is on, I have the communication wire here running from the 6000 XP, and I'm going to show you I have the communication wire here running from the 6000 XP, and I'm going to unscrew the RS485 CAN port here and expose it. All right, so then I'm going to just plug this in to that CAN port here. If you had multiple, you would open this address port up and switch and enumerate them, and then connect the cables for paralleling them together. All right, so now we have connected the CAN port cable, the CAN bus cable here to the 6000 XP inside. We've connected the positive and negative. We turned on the battery. It is time to go to change the perimeter in the 6000 XP to use these communication protocol. So once you go into this and you go into perimeter number 3 and you set it to lithium iron phosphate and brand 1, and it will immediately start communicating as it has here, and it'll pick up that it's 77%. You can scroll through all the options. See, it's pulling 450 watts, 280 amp hour battery, 53.4 volts at 77%. We take that back down here, and we can see that it is in fact 77%. And now communications is all set up. Although I hooked it up to an EG4, it automatically connects with EG4, Victron, Solarc, GoWatt, Lux Power, which is the EG4, and several other brands and stuff that support multiple protocols, and it automatically switches it and just does it for you, which is very cool. It eliminates a lot of the changing and configurations that you have with some of the other batteries. You got to go in and try to figure out what is the setting and everything. With this one, you basically just plug it in. It's as simple as that. So here we are to the pros and cons about the 280 or 300 amp hour big battery, the NEXUS big battery. I've got a pretty good list here of things that I ran across as I was going through it. So I'm just gonna tell you each one of them, go through them, and then we can, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments below, and we'll go from there. One of the big things I thought was really a big con is no more cycle counts. You don't have to worry about cycle counts. You get a 12-year warranty with it. I thought that was pretty big. I think it means that it's going to be here in 12 years. You don't have to worry about it, and you can just use your battery. In my mind, that's pretty important. The big thing I think is big, and I've run into this a lot lately, is it is an American-made company, or American-made company. It is an American company, and that means that you're going to be able to get support. They're going to answer your phones in your same time zone. Your warranties are going to be handled locally. And not that I have anything against all the other different formats and stuff, but it does make it more difficult, and traditionally it's been harder to get support and harder to get people that will answer your questions in a timely manner. So it'll be nice to have some more American support and another American company working in this industry. The next big I see benefit is the price per kilowatt hour. The battery runs about $29.90 or so. There is a discount code down below with me that'll save you another 5%. But that's, 300 amp hours is 15.36 kilowatt hours. Comes up to about $194 a kilowatt hour. That's a pretty good price. The fire suppression is a big pro. Although it is not UL listed, it does have the fire suppression, and it does have the heaters in it, which some of these features are required for the UL listings. I thought a big plus to easy communications. You wouldn't be surprised how many batteries that you have to struggle and fight with to get the comms to work. This one was nothing more than these brands you plug in this port, these brands you plug in that port, and plug it in. One thing that'll be interesting to see is if you can get it to work with like the EG4 batteries, because it's EG4 compatible, will it actually communicate with the other EG4 batteries? I have not tried that yet, but it would be a really big plus if it did. The next one that I do want to talk about, and I think this was a response to other reviews that I've seen out there. Originally, these shipped with 4-aught wire, 4-gauge wire, and now they do include the 2-gauge wire. I see this as a big movement forward. It shows that the company is listening. They're not just selling the batteries, they're not just dumping them on the market and forgetting about it because their specs say, hey, this is this and this is that, and that's the way it's going to be. They actually listened and included the two-gauge wires as opposed to the 4-gauge wires that were originally distributed with this battery. That allows it to safely support the 150 amps with a single wire, which is a wonderful response to a problem, because a lot of the times it isn't a matter of if they're going to have problems. All companies are going to have problems at some point. The question is how do they handle them when they do that? And from what I've seen here, they've responded to that issue. The other big benefit that I saw, and I kind of missed this while I was doing my original recording, it is IP54. I put a comment in the IP54, but this means that it is an indoor battery with outdoor protected support. That means it is not IP65. It's not waterproof. You can't take it underwater. You can't do that. But it is has enough resistance that you can put it outside if it's in a protected zone. I'm assuming that means that if it's in a covered shelter of some kind that prevents major water damage and water flows and direct rain and stuff like that. But that would be what I suspect. but IP54 does say indoor/outdoor in protected areas. So that's actually a really big benefit for a battery of this price, because anything that has any type of outdoor support, the price jumps hundreds and hundreds of dollars. All right, so let's go through a few of the cons. Some of these are nitpicky because I was looking for reasons to pick on it a little bit, because to be honest with you, the battery's been pretty good and the review's been pretty good. So I wanted to see if I could find a few things that you as a listener might be watching for or might have a problem with. So let me see if I can find a few of them here. One, I didn't like the idea that it didn't have a Bluetooth or any other type of communications. It reminds me of my EG4 LifePower4 batteries, where the only way to really get stats on it was to plug it in. Now, there is a display screen with a percentage. That's a big plus. And if you have comms hooked up, you can see it through the comms. That's another big plus. But there was no Bluetooth device of any kind, and not that I would use it, but I could see that a lot of people would really find that. I do like, and an added thing I'm going to add to the pros is that it is just a simple battery. None of this fancy crap that's going to make it not work or shut off or not function properly is included. It is just a basic battery. That's a big pro in my mind. The display that is on the battery is basically a blue little bar and a percentage. There is no other stats. There's no battery cell stats. There's no nothing. That would be very convenient if it did have them, so that if you were wondering, hey, is the active balancer running? Is the battery's packs balanced or whatnot? You could see that in a glance without logging into it or without having some other type of communication with the battery. But it doesn't have it, so I see that as a little bit of a downside. It is extremely heavy. The battery is over 300 pounds. But you know, any battery in this class of this size is going to be over 300 pounds, and you shouldn't be moving this battery around a whole lot. So I really don't see that as a con. But like I said, I was kind of looking for things, and if you're looking for something that you can manage on your own, this is a 300-pound battery. It is a very big, heavy battery. Once it's locked into place, though, it's very stable, and that kind of turns the pro into a con also, or the con into a pro. It didn't have any type of parallel busing. You basically have to hook them all up directly to some type of busing system of your own for the power for the battery cables. The only downside to this is with 15 of them. If let's say you were maxed out, if you had 15 of them, this would be quite difficult to do in a typical situation. So it makes things a little bit more complicated. The comms obviously will work up to 15 batteries. And that is probably another con, is the fact that the dip switches only allow up to 15 batteries. And because you can't really fit that many of them around a single bus anyway, you probably would end up with having to build something special or some way special to get the 15 together. Imagine if it was 32, if it allowed you to address up to 32 of them. That doesn't mean that you can't run more than, I would assume you could. There's no reason you can't run more than 15 of them if you're running it in open loop mode. It does not have a UL 9540 rating, meaning that it is, grid compatible or work with a grid-fed system, although it does have some of the other features like the fire suppression and things like that that would allow that UL certification. So back to the certification being, the pro is it has the UL, the IP54, it has the file suppression. The downside is it doesn't have the UL certification to go with it, the 9554, or the 9540, I'm sorry. The no quick connects. Now, this one really is a catch-22 because, as I said in the recording of the video, I really like the disconnects, or the quick connects and the disconnects. The only downside is in this case, I think they're better because I don't want another quick connect that I have to find special connectors for and buy them for. There needs to be a standard on this before they become a standard. And I think that at that point, if there was a standard set forth with them, then that would be the time when I would really miss them. But if you're looking for something with a quick connect, this battery doesn't have it. The only other downside that I saw to this one was it for a 300 amp or 300 amp hour or 280 amp hour battery, it had a limit of 140 charge and discharge, 140 amps of charge and discharge. a little bit low for the battery. It does have a 200 amp BMS in it, so you would think that it would be able to support it. But at the same time, based on some of the preliminary tests I'm running on it, the battery performs very well inside, and I don't think it may just be a matter of it's good engineering, and we want to ensure that you don't have any long-term problems. And in that case, it's really not a downside. But it does have a 140 limit if you're running it on a 6000 XP. If you're running more than one with a 12,000 XP, or a 10,000 or a 12,000 watt inverter, then you should be fine and you won't have any issues with that 140 amps. I personally don't worry about it because I have multiple batteries, and therefore the load is split across them, and it would be difficult for them to it would be impossible for enough inverters on my side to pull enough power to cause problems across my battery bank. But that is all of the pros and cons that I could come up with, and I don't really think there was much more. I am glad to see, and kudos to the BigBattery for including the 2 gauge wire. I didn't realize this when I recorded it, but this is a response to the market saying, hey, look, 4 gauge isn't enough. Let's put some 2 gauge in there. And they did that, and they didn't go cheap on them. They're not only larger, but they're also upgraded with the caps and the rubber covers too. So that's great. Great response. And if you're interested in getting one of these batteries, I'll include a discount code down below. It'll save you another 5%. That's a pretty significant savings. That'll bring the price down quite a bit. And if you have any questions, please include a link. And I look forward to hearing about your battery when you get one, or if you've got any if you get one, or you know somebody who has one, please post it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. We'll talk to you on the next video. And don't forget, I said during this video that there was something inside this battery that I haven't seen in other batteries. And I'm going to cover that thoroughly in another video later. But let's just say that BigBattery makes the statement that they want their batteries to be fully serviceable and not use proprietary components. This is a real change from a lot of the ones that are out there. They don't have the quick connects that are proprietary and you can't find them on the market. They don't have a BMS that's exclusive to them, I'm hoping. They don't have cells or something that we can't place or manage, wires that we can't fix. Hopefully the battery will really be serviceable, and that's something that you should look forward to and seeing in a future video. We'll see you on that video. Post in the comments if you have questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There should be a link right here, right now, so you can purchase it, and a link over here for the next video in this series. Talk to you then. Bye. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That'll come out tomorrow morning, and everyone will get a chance to take a look at it. I did want to answer one question here, though. You guys had a conversation going on in Colorado. I think it was the one that brought it up, talked about charging, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the automation and the pieces that I use for charging. Large systems like this are different from your typical stick it in the back of your car or stick it in the back of your RV, charge your system, and go off. 90% of the time, your system is connected as part of the infrastructure of your home. So for example, the grid comes in, it goes through your inverter, and you either A, use the grid in bypass mode, or you use the batteries and it runs your house. And then or you use the grid and the inverter acts as a giant ups machine. So you're looking at kind of a different class than you would think traditionally a little solar system in like the RV life or van life or something like that. Although charging is very similar. So for example, I'm going to show you right now, for example, I want this screen here, and I want to remove this, and I want to put this stage up. Okay, so my system runs off a variety of pieces of equipment, from the 6000 XP inverter to the EZ power inverter to my 48 volt system, and it runs through a breaker box that is in my solar shed, and everything's there. Now I plug into my house when I want backup power. What I could have done instead of the solar system that I have on my house that only backfeeds to the grid and only provides power when there's grid power, is I could have used it in a traditional off-grid style or hybrid style. And that would be that the grid comes into my inverter, and then from there I have configurations that say, okay, I want you to use the battery, but only when the battery has more than 50% of its charge. And then it would switch to battery power, and that way during the day when the sun is out, I use all of the grid power, or all of the solar power, and I charge my batteries with all the extra. And so that's one way of charging my batteries is solar power. That would be the first and primary method. Now, there are a lot of people that use grid to charge the batteries. Last night is a perfect example of when I used the grid. Tonight is another example, and I'm going to show you it. But in this case, I have a solar system that's connected up. It has the grid. I've told it to use solar power, but I see there's a storm coming. Now, with that storm, I'm going to run over here to Solar Assistant. Now, Solar Assistant is an extra piece of monitoring software that links into my inverter. So it connects to my 6000 XP or whatever inverter I happen to be running. I have it configured to connect to a 6000 XP, and you can go over the configuration screen, and you can come right down here, and you can go into, I'm going to disconnect it from mine, and you can pick different inverters. And as you can see, it connects to a whole bunch of inverters. Mine is a 6000 XP, which is a Lux Power. It is connected to this IP, and I want it to use the inverter state of charge values because right now I have that big battery that we just saw the video for connected to it through communications so that it tells it how much charge it has. Now, once I tell it to connect, it's going to connect to that inverter, and it's already connected from the inverter to the battery. Now, I have the option here of coming over to down here to my settings screen and saying, okay, I want you to, and I got to give this a second to actually get all the configuration. There it is. I want you to go into charging mode, and I want you to do the charge at this rate, and I want you to float the batteries at this rate, and I want you to max charge current to be 120 amps. And this means that I want 120 amps of charging power total between the grid and the solar, all added together, can't add up to more than 120 amps. Now, if it does, and I'm charging both off of the grid and from solar, then what it'll do is it'll trim off the grid and only allow a certain amount of grid to go in so that it doesn't exceed the 120 amps. I can easily set that to 30 amps, or 50 amps, or whatever I want. But I also can say, hey, I want the maximum amount of grid power going into my batteries to be 100 amps. So that means in order to hit the 120, I would have to have 20 amps of solar power plus 100 amps of grid. And when the solar power starts to go over 20 amps, then it's going to start taking away the grid power to keep that maximum of 120. Now, I've got grid power charging enabled based on time slots. Now, I could easily change this and say, hey, I want you to base it off of voltage of my batteries. So I could set it to when my batteries got low, that it would come on. And then when it got back up to high, it would go off. So in this case, if I say change it to voltage, I could say I want you, when you get to 49.5 volts, I want you to come on. And then when you get to 53 volts, I want you to shut off. And then that's when it would use that grid power, and the rest of the time, it's going to run everything off of the batteries. So I don't actually have to hook up a charger because the 6000 XP, which is this inverter here, is what they call an, oops, you can't see that, which is this inverter here, right here. It is an all-in-one inverter. And what it means by all-in-one is it's a charger for solar charging. It's a charger for AC charging, meaning plugged into the wall, but it's not plugged in because it's actually wired into your breaker box. So the grid comes in and it's wired into the breaker, into your grid, and then that grid goes out and goes and runs your electrical circuits in your house. So it is truly injecting itself in the middle, and it decides whether you're using the grid power or whether you're using the solar power. Now you can configure it based on the screens that I'm showing you over here on how you want that to turn off and on. You can say, I want you to use the state of charge, meaning if I have a battery connected to it through communication where the battery can say, hey, my state of charge is 10%, 12%, 2%, 8%. I can say, I want you to come on at 12% and shut back off at 25%. I use that quite commonly because that allows the state of charge to get pretty low. But then when the sun starts coming back up in the morning, I don't want it to be at 80%. I want it to be way down at 25% so it has plenty of room to charge so that the next night it wouldn't be able to get to that point. Now, if there is a storm coming or something like that, then I would want to go in and do a, what do you call, a forced charge. Now that's pretty easy to do. I can do that through the EG4 app, which is this one here, where I can say, you can see here, it's got 315 watts running into it, and it's just running all the devices right now. But if I come over to the Solar Assistant, I can see here it's configured to run off of the grid from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or to run charging from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and run off of the grid until 11 p.m. Now, the reason I have it configured that way today is because today it rained all day long. And because of that, last night I had a power outage and I had to use my solar system to operate everything overnight. Well, I had to do it for the first hour or so, and then the power came back on. I was too lazy to switch it back. So I left it on solar all night long. My backup system, this system here. And so today I wanted to get those batteries back up into a state that they were done. But I knew I was going to be here on the live stream tonight, so I didn't want it to start using the batteries until I got off the live stream. So I told it, hey, during the day when the sun is out, I want you to do all the charging you can and just use grid power to run the refrigerators that I have out in the solar shed, which you can see here. It's running 286 watts. Not very big, but it does run the deep freeze. It runs the coffee trailers refrigeration and the ice cream refrigeration and all of those miscellaneous devices that it would normally run. But then I've told it, I want you to also charge between 6 and 8, knowing that between 6 and 8, I was going to need more battery power than what was there. And the reason being is I still have storms in the area, and I want to make sure if the power goes out that I have the ability to turn it back on. Now, normally and typically, I don't use a whole lot of grid. And the reason I don't is I use the excess power that I generate and I burn it off with a bit miner. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, the last week or two, I've been selling off all my used panels because I've got new panels coming in. And because I've been selling off all my panels, I really didn't get to collect a whole lot of power today, only 10 kilowatts of power and 9 yesterday. Whereas typically I collect a whole bunch of power, but I can't do that because I don't have any solar panels. So your question about charging, they sell chargers that you can connect to the battery, plug the charger in, and the battery charges. They sell them in 20 amps, they sell them in 10 amps, they sell them in 110 amps. You could probably pick them up right on Amazon. We could probably just say 48 volt LifePower4 charger. And you'll see here they've got a 30 amp charger. That's a 24 volt. Here it is. A 18 amp charger for 109 volts. And, you know, they sell all kinds of chargers here. Here's a 15 amp one. Here's a 15 amp one. Now, as you can imagine, I have 60 kilowatts, which is 1,398 amp hours. And at 15 amps, it would take a very long time to charge my battery. So you're going to need a much bigger charger. Now, I can bring in 140, 150 amps during the day when the sun is out. And when I get the new panels, I should be able to bring in close to 200 amps. And then it would charge, still going to take 7 or 8 good hours of charging, but it would be much more reasonable. Or I could charge it from the grid. Now, when I charge it from the grid, I'm limited by the type of power I have plugged in. I don't have a standard wall plug plugged into my charger. I have the 240 volt grid power plugged into my charger. And the 6000 XP can operate that charger at 100 amps charging to the battery. And that's battery voltage 100 amps, not coming off of the grid 100 amps. So that is, I hope that answers the question a little bit better about charging. You have several different options, but because your system is really built to be permanently installed and become part of your electrical system in your house, you don't only charge through just solar, just plugging in like an RV when you're in a location, or when you're leaving, just leave with full batteries and come back and charge. You can do that, and there are people who do that. For example, there are a lot of people in Texas who have solar systems that are nothing more than batteries and a 6000 XP. They have no solar panels. And you say, well, why wouldn't they have solar panels? Because they get a free electricity in the middle of the night. So in the middle of the night, they put their 6000 XP into full charge mode, and it charges all of their batteries up, and then they use the battery power during the day because it didn't cost anything to charge it at night. So that's one way. A lot of other people have very expensive power during premium times, and you use what we call peak shaving. And they will charge their batteries during the cheap time of the day, whether that's in the middle of the afternoon or in the middle of the night or whatever, and they'll avoid those couple of hours in the morning and those couple of hours at night where they're charging 4 or 5 times more for electricity, and they'll let their solar system charge it then, and then the solar will charge all day while the sun's up. They'll switch back to battery here in this place, completely off grid, and then in the middle of the night, they'll go back to grid when their battery gets too low, and in the next morning, they start over again. And so it's a balancing act, but charging isn't the same when you're talking about an RV battery or something like that. And I hope that made it more clear and not more confusing. And I hope you're still here listening to my rambling. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up after that video. Thanks everybody for coming to this week's live stream. It was a fantastic conversation about batteries. If you missed it, we went and great, B Colorado. I hope that answered your question a little bit better. And thank you earlier for your super. I really do appreciate it. We went through all of the different battery types, celebrating 24,442 subscribers this week. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you guys for watching my videos. Thank you for liking them. And thank you for all of my members who sign up so that they can get early access to watch my videos before they come out on a normal basis. The video you just saw, or the video we just saw in that is coming out in the morning. So I hope everybody has a great time. Next week, I don't know what the live stream is going to be about, but I anticipate sometime between now and then, or maybe then, we'll have a good interview with the BigBattery CEO, and hopefully the CIO in another week or so after that. We'll be talking to them and some more big battery videos, breaking it down, looking inside, and talking to that great American company to see how we can make DIY solar better, safer, and more fun, and probably more addictive for all of us. Hope you all had a great week. Thanks for coming. Hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July, and I wish you all the best. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. And welcome to all of the Facebook folks. I know it's your first week here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching also. And don't forget, whatever platform you're on, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. I think I have a video that plays at the end this time. I don't know. I added a whole bunch of new stuff this week. Let's see if it works.